All right, good afternoon, and welcome to the Bingo Advisory Committee meeting at the Texas Lottery Commission. It is 2:02 p.m. on August 6th, 2024. I will call the meeting to order, and we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States and the Texas flags. Please rise. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Before we go on to the roll call, item number 2, just a note of history. 13 years ago today, Extortion 17 was on a mission, and we lost 31 American heroes. SEAL Team 6, Gold Team, and we would just like to remember them today and thank their families for the sacrifice. Item number 2, roll call. I am here. Melody. Here. Veronica. Stacy. Stacy, get online? No. Okay. Tommy. Here. Jason. No Jason?
That's it.
Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, there he is. Good job. Thank you, Jason. Glad you're with us.
Yes, sir.
All right. Michael, did he get on by chance?
He was on phone.
Well, he may be on. He might just be muted at the time. They may. Okay. All right. So Michael's not on. Floyd?
Here.
And Corey. All right. We do have a quorum today. Item number 3, meeting minutes from July 19th, 2024. And those meeting minutes were available. Reading them earlier. So
Will they be approved?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes from July 19th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All in favor, no opposed. Any public comment? All right, motion carries. Meeting minutes are accepted. All right, item number 4, Rules Review Subcommittee Report. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on this before we go into this? Okay. We did have our Rules Review Subcommittee report this morning at 10 a.m. We had good attendance on that. The Rules Review has really done a good job on this. This is one of the most fluid rule review processes that I've seen in a long time. And I'd like to credit that to LaDonna and Tyler for the way they've done this and made it readily available and easy for us to talk about and go over all the different 1,000 iterations of each rule. So we greatly appreciate that. And I think I'd be okay to make a motion that the BAC would like to move forward with the rule review process, and we welcome that going into public comment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Sunset Commission update. Sunset Commission meeting is scheduled for next Wednesday, which is going to be
14th.
the 14th. Do we have a time on that yet, LaDonna?
9 o'clock.
9 a.m.? Okay. Um, the only other info that I have on that so far is that Mr. Bell, Representative Bell, will be the chairman of that committee. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. All right. LaDonna, you have anything you want to add to that? Pardon?
No, I do.
Okay. Anyone else? Sunset Review? Any public comment? All right. Item number 6, BAC nominations for fiscal year 2025. So we were tasked this go around to relook at all the nominations. The complete process was opened up for nominations by the commissioners. Our job as the Bingo Advisory Committee was to look through all those applications, and there were quite a few actually. I forget the total number. Do you remember? It was 14. Yeah. Okay. There was 14 total nominations that were submitted. We had a subcommittee of Veronica and Melody and I, and Veronica and Melody did the heavy lifting on this, thank goodness. And they did quite the thorough job. If I may, this is just one stack and some of the notes
Here's
that
the other.
that Melody and Veronica took the time to call each and every one of the applicants and nominees and talk to them extensively. Veronica and Melody, y'all want to comment on this?
Well, the nominees were very excited about bingo. They wanted to learn the process, and it was very nice to see that they wanted to come and believe we have
Dr. Penny.
yeah, Dr. Penny here. He was one that we spoke to about. He came from Plano, so I don't know if you wanted him to come up and say a few words or not.
Yeah. We're
But,
going to invite him up here in just a few minutes, but go ahead.
Anyway, it was very interesting, and it was because we're immersed in bingo, and it was interesting to talk to people that were not. So I think you had a great group of people there, and anybody that they choose will be super for the BAC going forward, I think.
I agree. It was a variety of people from all different backgrounds, all different ages. And so it was nice to hear everybody's different input of how little or how much they didn't have. So we really enjoyed getting to know other people and getting to hear their perspective of the BAC and why they wanted to join. So it was good. It was a learning process for both of us. We really enjoyed getting to know everybody. And so we've made our recommendation on that.
Excellent. So back on July 19th is when we had our vote to decide who the BAC was recommending for the BAC for next year and for the commissioners to choose from. So I'm going to run through that list real quick just so that we can all have that on the record. There were 6 original members on the BAC that we voted to recommend to the commissioners. And I will read off their names and their position on the BAC, which is me, Trey Smith, was conductor, Melody Green, commercial lessor, Floyd Olive, manufacturer, Tommy Duncan, distributor, Jason Pohl, conductor, Veronica Uriegas, charity lessor. We did have 3 spots that were vacant, one of those which being a public member. We thought that was a very big step in this whole process, was getting a true public member. And I'd like to thank LaDonna and the commissioners for making that happen. I know y'all sent some emails to some different places trying to look for new people. We appreciate that. So the 3 new members that we're recommending to the commissioners for the BAC are Audrey Walter, a conductor lessor, Shara Wilson, a public member, and Dr. Penny, Demetric Penny, he goes by Trey, so he is also a public member. And Dr. Penny is in the audience today, and we would allow him, or like for him to come up and say a few words if you'd like to, sir. Grab the, at the mic right there. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. I want to say thank you to the BAC for inviting me out. It's always an honor to go before our state committees and see the great work that the state does. For those of you that don't know who I am Dr. Trey Penny. I'm a 22-year Dallas police sergeant, retired. I'm also the president of the National Fallen Officer Foundation. Very familiar with nonprofits, but that opened the door for everything that I've done with my national advocacy. As the president of the Fallen Officer Foundation, I've consulted for the House and Senate, U.S. House and Senate for 3 years on public safety policy. So as you know, everything dealing with public safety or public interest is a primary concern of mine. And I know with all the billards and bingo halls across the country, look, there's no different from anything else. We have to deal with crime. Anytime you get people together, you have to worry about what happens with those congregations. And I want to do everything that I can to protect the public interest, while also ensuring that our nonprofits are not being taken advantage of by the groups that support bingo for these nonprofits. So I want to make sure that there's clear transparency across the board, and that that nonprofit organizations have a real opportunity to thrive. And without any further ado, I just want to say thank y'all for having me. And I'd love to look forward to meeting each and every last one of you at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. And hopefully we look forward to working with you. So you have our list for the BAC nominations for next year, and I know there's some proposed rule changes that would help the staff and the commissioners not have to relook at everybody every year. So we welcome that change as well. I'm sure that'd take a lot of stress out of everybody's life. So we'll definitely be supporting that. Are there any other discussions on the nominations? All right, very good. All right, before we go on to old business, Commissioner Fields, is there anything that you would like to add or take away from? Okay, thank you very much. Just wanted to extend the offer. All right, item number 7, old business. Any public comment? If none, we'll go on to item number 8, new business. Ms. Sharon Ives.
Good afternoon. Sharon Ives for Bookkeeping. My office provides bookkeeping, accounting, payroll services for various halls in North Central Texas. So I have a question regarding raising capital limit. So I know there's a form online, which once that's completed, I understand that a business plan needs to be submitted with that form. My question is, how detailed does that business plan need to be? The reason I'm asking,
the formula for the operating capital?
That is correct. And the reason I'm asking is this has to do with a particular hall that, of course, was closed during COVID. Once the operations, in the state of Texas lifted, this particular hall stayed closed due to remodeling, I should say, issues along the way. Once this hall opened last year, they only conducted bingo, I think it was 7 weeks, and that was in the latter part of the year. So to my surprise, in January, when the operating capital limit was set by the Lottery Commission Bingo Division, that capital limit was I believe it was $15. It might be 14, so don't really quote me on that. So, so that being the case, that raised their charitable distribution requirement a lot. So if that charity distribution was mandated to be distributed, that would pretty much zero out their checking account.
So if I may ask a question, I'm not familiar with the formula. Is the formula posted online for that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Operating capital.
The capital limit is set on units in January of every year. That is set by the staff.
Is it?
Correct.
I don't want to put you on the spot, Tyler. I mean, if you need to come back to that, we can. I was just curious if there's like a formula that's online or something that we can look at and maybe.
It's in Rule 402.451E. It says the retained operating capital for a unit will be calculated based on the quarterly reports for the four-quarter period beginning October 1st through September 30th of each year. And the retained operating capital for a unit is effective January 1 through January 31st. The calculation for a organization is, let's see here. I don't see the formula. But any request, you can always request a raise in the capital limit, and it's completely at the director's discretion, provided that it's demonstrated that it's necessary to facilitate the operation of the organization.
Correct.
And so.
And I was told that a business plan needed to be attached to that request.
I don't believe that's required. That's required of a waiver request. Like if you need a net proceeds waiver or a charitable distribution waiver, there needs to be a business plan.
Correct.
Provided that it's like your second one in 3 years or something that we changed a couple of years ago. But on this,
so once I submit that form, what's the turnaround time as far as getting that approved and getting that operating capital limit raised?
There's nothing in the rule that specifies. I think it's just up
So it could,
how quickly they can process it and make a determination if they have enough information to make that determination.
okay.
I have a question. Where would $15 have come up? I mean, you can't do anything. You can't operate any business with $15. What, was that a formula?
I guess, is that something that can be reviewed? And
So in the statute, it says that they may retain operating capital in their account in an amount that is equal to their actual average expenses per quarter based on the preceding license period, excluding prizes paid. And so that's how, if they weren't doing anything,
They were at hold.
that's how it plummeted down to near
Yeah.
zero.
Is that something we can look at? Because I mean, anybody would know you can't do that. And now you've got a hall that's kind of on hold and having to go jump through these hoops to operating capital. I mean,
Yeah.
hers is 250,000. Hers is $15.
Yeah, you just have to apply for it.
have to apply for it. Go
Yeah.
through.
So
Just request it and
Are they playing more now?
I'm sorry, what?
Are they playing more now?
Yes.
So if you're a startup hall, does that come into play, the previous year's operating cap? Because if you're a startup hall, it's going to be zero for operating capital.
yeah.
How do you get around that?
I think it would default to 50,000 is the highest allowed in the statute.
That's
Maybe that's something we can
good.
take a
Yeah.
look at in another time or try to figure something out.
Just so you're aware of it. A lot of times there's so many things going on, you're not aware of it. So you can't fix it.
So does she have a time limit on when she has to have this done? Because if she empties out her account and she's going to have to close down.
No, you can request it at any time. Anybody can request a raise in their operating capital at any time.
Have you submitted one?
So if I submit the application, then it could be backdated since it's a unit to January 1. Is that it? I would assume that's how it would work, correct?
I'd have to look
Don't
at the
know.
form, Sharon.
Okay, I'll get it. I'll get it to you
So-
tomorrow.
So is this,
Well, if you'll send the questions through Bingo Services, you'll get help.
Right.
If she doesn't if she doesn't empty her bank account, if she doesn't distribute all the funds, what happens? Because she's supposed to distribute all the charitable distribution out.
Yeah, so every year, until that limit gets raised, you would have to. If it comes to that point where the limit hasn't been raised at the time, 25 days after the quarter or whatever, then
Right, but if she doesn't disperse all that, what is she going to be held responsible for? Like, is there a penalty for not
yeah, that would be a
distributing?
failure to distribute charitable funds. You could also submit a waiver to distribute charitable funds, would be another version of this, or you could do both at the same time. You could request an operating capital increase and also a waiver of the charitable distribution requirement while your operating capital request is pending. So that if that deadline somehow got passed, you could have a waiver to say, we want a waiver for this quarter for charitable distribution because it's going to bankrupt us, and we currently have an application pending for an operating
Gotcha.
capital increase.
Okay, I'll do
Because it
that
would
then.
bankrupt you completely to wipe it.
yeah,
Any other question? No?
No.
Thank you.
thank you, Sheriff. So is there a issue with the way that this is written or done or anything? Is this something that we need to put back on the agenda to go into it fully, or?
I don't think so. During COVID, when I was the director, we got a ton of these, and I'd have them out the same
Yeah.
day.
Okay,
Right.
Now, yeah, now
You
she's gotta
mentioned.
consider- historically, like
Very helpful.
the main reason was like, we need to build a new roof or something, so they'd ask for an operating capital increase, or distribution waiver. But yeah,
That
it's,
will protect her, the distribution.
yeah, these are very common.
And your
Couple years
default to 50,000, that's much more reasonable than
Right.
$15. Is
Well,
just,
no, so I don't think the default, so it says it's equal to your average expenses, as long as it doesn't exceed 50,000, but the director can allow it to exceed 30,000, based on a request showing that it's necessary to facilitate some further goal of the
Right.
organization.
but she
right.
wouldn't know she would have to have that problem until she already had it. So you can't,
Well, right
Correct.
now,
At which
she's-
point, that's why you would file a
Right.
waiver from a charitable
waiver.
distribution.
Right.
You'd realize, I don't have the money here, so you'd
Right.
request the waiver, so we don't have to distribute
Mhm.
this money for this month. At the same time, you would request an increase in your operating capital limit.
okay, all right. Any other discussion on that?
And I will say, so the waiver for charitable distribution does require a credible business plan. So the waiver for the operating capital does not. But let me look here real quick. Yeah, we changed this years ago. That it was like your first waiver. If it's your only waiver request within 3 years, I think it is, it's presumed. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about, that it's only for proceeds. Yeah, during COVID, yeah, so under COVID, they were granted based on force majeure, which was that the governor's office closed everybody down, so they couldn't possibly make money. So those were just granted as fast as I could get them out. If it's for a business reason, I mean, this isn't a force majeure, this isn't, a hurricane or anything like that. For a business reason, then they're required to submit a business plan. Application for a waiver under B1. Yeah, okay. So an application for a waiver must include the reason for the request, an explanation how compliance with this requirement is detrimental to the organization's existing or planned purposes, the specific calendar quarter or license year for which the waiver is being requested. So I think that does go backwards. And either the following: a credible business plan, or if the request is due to force majeure, documentation from outside sources supporting force majeure. So because this is a business-based request, it will require a business plan. A credible business plan may, but is not required to include the following: the specific activity or activities the organization intends to undertake, a timeline for undertaking the activities that is reasonable in light of the waiver period request, the cost of undertaking the activities and how those costs will be managed, whether the activity or activities may reasonably be expected to increase the revenues of the organization, a description of the expenses of any that would be avoided or reduced during the period for which the waiver is applicable, and an explanation of how the proposed activities will allow the organization to correct its financial difficulties to ensure their operations result in proceeds. Criterion. Let me see. So, and then this thing we added a couple years ago, a business plan will be presumed credible if the application is the organization's first application for the waiver of the net proceeds. Yeah, so that only applies to net proceeds. So yeah, you'll have to submit a business plan, LaDonna, for the waiver of a charitable distribution requirement. And LaDonna will have to evaluate that, determine if it's credible in light of all those factors and whatever other information you provide. And then at the same time, you'll submit a operating capital increase request that will be determined based on the necessity.
But Tyler, how would you build a business plan around the fact that if you gave away every single penny in your checking account, you'd be bankrupt?
I think
There's no
that's
business
it.
plan for that except that the capital should not have been $15 to start with.
But that's what the business plan is. As you know, in the old days, business plans, sometimes we'd get an email with 2 sentences. Sometimes we'd get an Arthur Anderson laminated binder full of things. And,
Yeah,
there's no guarantee either way. So
but that wasn't her fault.
it's
I mean,
purely at her discretion. Yeah, you just say, just explain it. Look, we were closed. If I spend all this money, we're going to be out of business. That's a pretty good business plan to me, right? Like if
yeah,
I spend this money, I'm going out of business. So
$15
I'm
cap.
requesting that I don't have to distribute this money in order to allow my organization to continue functioning for the next several months, and so that in the long run it benefits the charities. I think this one's pretty simple, really. I mean, it's
Sharon, it's Form 136. You can find it on the website, and it includes a list of the criteria that'll be considered for your business plan. That should help. I want to say that I received that form from Croatia, from Vivian, who's on vacationing but listening to the meeting.
Thank you, Vivian. Hang up and go to the beach, Vivian.
Hello.
Have some scallops. Those are the best in the world, just so you know.
Thank you.
Hopefully that's a very unique problem. Oh, sorry. Hopefully that's a very unique problem, and hopefully we can help you with that if we can. I would venture to say if that's something that doesn't happen very often. Is that something that happens a
I
lot?
haven't seen one in a while.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay.
So here's another section from the statute. It says the commission shall adopt rules allowing an organization to retain the maximum amount of operating capital, which is 50 grand, provided if the organization has conducted bingo for less than 1 year. So that's in the new guy, experiences circumstances beyond the control, including force majeure, but not necessarily force majeure, that necessitate an increase in operating capital. And then they provide a credible business plan for the conduct of bingo, or for the organization's existing or planned charitable purposes that an increase in operating capital will reasonably further.
Got you. Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other discussion on this? All right. We will move on to item number 9, to one of our favorite items. Setting the date for the next meeting.
So the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, October 2nd, 10 o'clock in this building, with the commission meeting the next day, Thursday, October 3rd.
October 2nd, you said?
Yes.
Sounds good to me. And do we know when the next commission meeting will be?
The next day,
Oh, the
October
next day. I
3rd.
didn't hear you. Okay. Right. All right, moving on to item number 10 then. We will now call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.